Hi, friend. Are you ready to move into a leadership position? Do you have interests and ambitions that you want to pursue, but feel like you don't know how to take that next step? Maybe you want to start your own coaching or consulting agency. I'm Mel, and I help educators define their career path through correct mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for your career transition. I will show you how to level up your leadership skills, share your expertise in a new way, create impact on a larger scale, and put your leadership in motion. As an educator for over 20 years, I started to feel underused and like I had more to give. I knew when the time had come for me to leave the classroom and affect change on a larger level. Now, I'm ready to help you determine where your talents and skills mesh with your passions and interests. Put your leadership in motion and move into that next phase of your educational career journey. Let me help you define your career path by having the right mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for that next leadership position. So power up and put your leadership in motion. Welcome back to Empowered Educator. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort. Today, I have with me, all the way from Chicago, I have Dr. Sharon O'Neal. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sharon.
Thank you, Dr. Mel. I feel so honored that you've asked me to come on and to meet your audience today and to just share out administrators, how they see literacy in their buildings or even across their district.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are super excited to have you. You have been in education for over 20 years. You have been a teacher. You've been an interventionist, a literacy coach, an adjunct teacher. You have been an educational consultant. So you have done a lot. And I am super excited to learn about literacy and what that looks like from a leadership standpoint and how leaders can be better at promoting literacy in their buildings, all of the things. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you for that introduction. I have a love for literacy, and as you can see, I have been doing it for over 25 years. I have a master's in literacy, reading, and language, and I loved it so much. And I just could not wait to further expand my education because I'm a lifelong learner, and therefore went back and now I am Dr. Sharon with a focus in reading, literacy, and language and educational leadership. My experience and just the collaborating with beautiful, very smart, all of my different colleagues that I've met along the way has just inspired me to continue to learn as much as I can, research as much as I can. Plus, my ultimate goal is to close the literacy gaps across the globe.
Yes, yes. And I'm also a former ELA teacher, and
Wonderful.
yes, I am not a math person by any means. And I mean, I can do math, but I cannot teach higher level math for sure. But ELA is my thing, and I'm very passionate about it. So
Yes.
I'm right there with you.
Okay, wonderful. So, without further ado, let's just go into this rich conversation today
Let's do it.
about administrators and how they see literacy in their buildings and within the classrooms and even across the district. And when you look at literacy through the administrator's eyes, it's a very complex discipline to try to help all of your students. We have a diverse body of students that we must address their various literacy needs and levels. So one of the first things that I think that they should do, because as an administrator, there's many challenges and there's also many opportunities to close those gaps within your districts and schools. So let me just say, how do we address the diverse needs of our students? In all of my various roles, I have found that we have created plans that we have had to go back after looking at the data And not only looking at the data, but looking at the students in front of us. And we have had to go back and make some changes and target our students exactly, to ensure that we are able to target their individual needs. And when I say that, most districts have had a huge influx of your English language learners. You have your special
Mm-hmm.
education population. So when you're talking about literacy and all of the components of literacy, you have your phonics, your phonemic awareness, your fluency, your reading comprehension, your vocabulary, and let's not forget writing. Writing and reading goes together. And if you can have your students reading and then writing about their reading, and I'm going to add in another layer of being able to speak about the things that they have read.
Yes.
So that only not only increases your comprehension, but that's a way of closing that literacy gap. And students will then begin to make the gains that they need as they go from grade level to grade level.
So you're saying we need to start with the data and look at the data and go from there?
Absolutely. So it's important that administrators, your literacy team, your curriculum team, and your all of your leads, all of your teacher leads, your coaches get together and create a literacy plan based on the data that your district has in front of you. And a lot of times you may get that data maybe like August, but even if you use the data from the end of the year, you can come up with a plan. Now remember, it's a workable document that you will have to
Mm-hmm.
look at district wide for each building and also down to each grade level. So it is just not one plan because each grade level may have some deficiencies or have some strengths. So every
Mm-hmm.
grade level, and remember, if you got a school of 4 or 5 elementary schools, you may have really 4 different plans. Or you can have a district plan and each principal take that plan and then modify it according to their students in their buildings. And
Yes.
the teachers must be a part of that plan. So, yes, the data driven plan in which encompasses all the areas of literacy is so important. Thank
Yeah,
you for that, Dr.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we start with that data. And then when we're thinking about the curriculum or when I was an ELA teacher, we got a new reading series and it was just given to me and I didn't have any input in it at all. It was just handed to me and I was told, "Here you go. Here's your reading materials for the next couple of years." And I had to learn it on my own. I had to figure it out and I didn't get a lot of support in that. So when we're thinking about the curriculum and we're thinking about what reading series or reading plans we need to implement in the buildings as a leader, what is your recommendations on that? You just said something about teachers need to be part of that. So what role should they play in that?
And I'm glad you shared that because I also experienced that as a new
Mm-hmm.
teacher. But I think it's important that our teachers are supported, and that support may be professional development that they may receive throughout the school year to help support them in making sure that as they are teaching and that they are assessing that their students and that they're checking for understanding and that we're doing formative and summative assessments along the way. And when we tell our teachers, here you go, just teach, sometimes they just may open up that particular, it doesn't even matter which curriculum it is, and just start teaching. And what I mean, wait a minute, hold on, what about the data? What about our
Mm-hmm.
district literacy plan? And then, is your room a rich literacy environment? Do you have a place for a word wall? Do you have a library for your students? And then
Mm-hmm.
what professional development do you need? One of the things that I suggest to administrators is that their teachers receive a survey in the beginning of the school year, and maybe even in January, mid-year. And we look at that survey and they are able to then write or check off or tell us the type of professional development that they may need. And
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes if we pull those surveys together, we can create some type of plan together, some type of professional development plan which will address our teachers' needs. Because sometimes we look at the data and we look at what our students' needs, but we need to also have a plan for our teachers as well.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language right now, because that's exactly what I do is go into classrooms and I observe teachers, and then I
Yeah.
give feedback on what our
Yes.
teachers need, and we create a plan for them. But taking
Mhm.
it back to the curriculum and whatever reading series, how do you know what reading series to choose? I mean, there are tons of reading series out there to choose from. There's Amplify CKLA, there's Houghton Mifflin. I mean, there's all these different companies that offer these wonderful reading series for your building. And how do
Yes.
you know which one is the one you need?
That's an excellent question. So one of the things when a district is looking at a literacy curriculum is that you write a list or a survey. You pour your veteran teachers in, you pour your new teachers, you create a curriculum team
Uh
who
huh.
is going to be responsible. And you want to make sure that every grade level is represented. And you also want to make sure that you have your special ed teachers in there. You may want to have a couple of your paraprofessionals there. And you
Mm-hmm.
may definitely going to want your special ed teachers there because
Yes.
you want every population, you want this to be where everyone has a voice. Because sometimes, if you have a gifted program, you also want your gifted, because we don't want to just always spend time on our students that are struggling. If we have students that are on level and beyond level, we want to challenge those students
Mm-hmm.
so that they can be prepared and have their selves college ready and career ready as well. So
Yes.
you definitely need a great team of teachers or that are lead teachers to be a part of that. And then have an idea of what you want. Okay, all curriculums are not created equal, Dr. Mayo. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
I'm not gonna do any dropping of names because even once we do make a decision on that, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Implementation is key.
Mm-hmm.
Implementation
Absolutely.
is key. And
Absolutely.
then also, not only are you implementing, but are you using the curriculum with fidelity?
Yes, exactly.
And and it's so
Exactly.
important. It's so important that whatever curriculum you decide to go with as a district, that whoever comes in and train your teachers, and then
Yes.
not just train them one time, but come back in and check in with them, and come in
Yes.
maybe about 2 or 3 times throughout the year. Do a walkthrough with that, with that
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
administrator or with your lead teachers or your literacy coaches, or you got to do a walkthrough and just see how the pieces are being made. And I'm going to tell you something else. If you're going to look into curriculum, not only do you want a printed piece, but you also want a digital piece.
Yes.
So if you can get a curriculum that has printed and digital, why? Because we are living in a digital world. And
Yes. And
right
those
now,
digital tests are
literacy,
amazing. Like those digital
absolutely.
assessments. So you can level your kids. And then the one that I used when I was a principal, it was an amazing curriculum. It had the digital version, but then it also had the hard copy. The information we got from the digital, plus the things that it helped us know what to do, our next steps, like our stretch goals and our immediate goals, and all of those things were embedded in that. And it was an amazing thing. And one thing that I was going to follow up is,
Yes.
if you have a curriculum that fits part of your building, but doesn't fit the rest of your building, because maybe your early childhood, your K2 needs something that one curriculum has, but your 3 through 5, 6, whatever, depending on where your building lands on that, needs something different because that other curriculum doesn't cover that as well as you want. It's okay. You can have more than one in your building.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You may have a K through 2 curriculum search team, a
Mhm.
3 through 5th grade curriculum search team, and a
Mm-hmm.
sixth through eighth grade
Mm-hmm.
curriculum, which is your middle school curriculum. And if you have our district with high school, you may even have your high school secondary
Yes.
search teams. And I'm
Yes.
so glad you brought that up. And it's one thing I want to go back and reiterate that I did not get an opportunity to talk about is with the teachers. The also teachers may need some support with leveling text.
Oh, yes,
And when I say
absolutely.
leveling text, it's important to have text. You have to differentiate instruction, and you have to also be able to look at different levels of text for your students. Because if I teach a strategy and if the text is too easy, those students will not use the strategy. If the text is too difficult, your students are going to spend time decoding, trying to figure out what the word is, struggle with the comprehension piece, and never even use your strategy.
Right.
So it's so important that level text, which also may be a part of the professional development plan,
Mm-hmm.
as you are talking about making sure that your teachers are supported and have professional development that would allow them to then properly service their students so that you can see gains and close those gaps.
Yes. And that's one of the things that, along with going in and observing teachers, is I work with them on how to backward plan and really make sure that they are creating a really rigorous lesson, and that okay, so a lot of times teachers equate rigor to how hard something is. It doesn't mean it's hard. It means it makes them think, and it makes them stretch their thinking and build off of each other and unpack things. That's what rigor means. And we sometimes, like I said, equate it to just being hard. Okay, hard isn't, like, that's irrelevant. Can you question your students when they are reading and they're having trouble or they need to dig deeper into their own thinking? Can you do that as a teacher? So it's important to, like you said, provide those strategies through professional development for our teachers to make sure that they
Yes,
know, yes, they need to be able to implement with fidelity, but they also need to be able to stretch and add their own stuff based on what they're seeing their students do during that lesson. Do I need to back up and unpack a little bit more? Do we need to discuss this a little bit more? This is a great conversation we're having here today. How can I stretch their thinking and make them really think about inferences and foreshadowing and whatever it happens to be?
absolutely. Now we're talking because I think this is when you're talking about unpacking strategies and in the classroom, and we often talk about backwards design, or we talk about
Mm-hmm.
the I do, we do, you do. One of the things that I have noticed, Dr. Mayo, is when I am observing teachers, often they do the I do, and then they go straight to you do.
You do.
And they
Exactly. And they
often
forget.
miss the
Yes.
we do. Students need opportunities, learning opportunities to practice what you have taught them. And see, when you skip the we do, then all of a sudden you're doing it and then you're
Mm-hmm.
getting assessed on it. And you see that the scores are not where they need to be. The mastery is not there. Now what? So guess what? Another really great professional development a lot of teachers need supported is with small group instruction
Mm-hmm.
because now
Yes.
I have differentiated groups and I am then as a teacher have an opportunity to address my students and needs with direct instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me just say this, the digital and the AI and all of the things that we're doing with technology, it is great, but nothing takes the place of direct instruction.
Exactly. Exactly. My boyfriend and I've had this conversation a few times. He's like, teachers are going to be irrelevant one of these days. I'm like, no, they're not. They will never be irrelevant. AI will
Mhm.
never replace a human teacher ever, ever.
An AI, you may get an assessment where it's incorrect, but if I pull that same student to the back of the
Yes.
table and I say, read that to me, And I can question what was your understanding of this text? What is it about that character? Can you support what details? Find key details. And if you're not able to identify the key details, it's just going to mark it wrong on a computer program. But
Exactly.
if you're in front of me, I'm going to watch you, and I get an opportunity to, guess what, support you and to
Mhm.
give you what
Mhm.
you need, and yet
Mhm.
model how to identify those key ideas. So then next time you have now some tools in your toolbox as a student that can address that, whatever that
Yes.
skill may be. And
Yes.
I'm just using that as an example. So direct instruction and small group instruction, because let's be honest, we lose our students in a large group, especially our struggling students. They get
Mhm. Mhm.
quiet. They may start to, you may have some behavior issues. But if I pull you to the back and it's only two or three, or if it's four of us back there, I'm going to be able to get you to really hone in on
Mhm.
whatever it is. I'm going to be able to get you to stay focused, and you are getting my undivided attention. And we
And
are
one
going
of
to get, we're going, and
yes.
that's a great way just to address your students' needs and support them and nurture them in your classroom.
One thing that I did as an ELA teacher is having three different groups of students all the time. So I had students who needed a little bit more support from me. I had
Yeah.
students who were a little more independent. And then I had a group of students who they really were teaching me most of the time because they were just that smart and they could be independent for the most part and work on their own pace with my support when needed. And then I was able to focus on the other two groups. And so you do not have to teach. I feel like teachers also think, okay, I have to have whole group instruction as an ELA teacher during reading all the time. And you don't have to. You can actually be small group all the time. Yes, now were times when we would read a story together as a class and we would work through things
Hmm.
together as a
Hmm.
class, especially with a reading series. But when we were working textbook work, I had those three different groups and I knew what each group needed. So as a teacher, you
Yes.
definitely need to know your students. And I would know my students very well within a couple of weeks of school starting. So I knew how to break those groups up immediately and how I needed to support them. So when we're thinking as a leader, the building leader, the lead instructor, the lead learner, what do we need to be doing during the day as the admin during it, depending on what your blocks look like? And the best time for ELA is in the morning, of course. We know this because
Hmm.
kids need that
Hmm.
first thing. Definitely, definitely. So as the building principal, what do I need to be doing during the day when everybody's in reading?
I'll tell you, one of the best practices an administrator can do is literacy walkthroughs, in which you go in with a checklist, and on that checklist you are looking for things. Is the objective on the board? Is the teacher teaching the objective on the board? You're looking for things, because if you're going in your classroom and you're seeing what a literacy block should incorporate, what it should have, and what this teacher should be doing, then you already know that your scores are going to reflect that. But if you're going in a room and you see, and if you don't see some things that are should be done that's on the checklist, which by the way, I am going to provide that today,
Oh,
and that check to help you know what to look for. This checklist that I'm going to provide will allow you. You don't even have to think about it. You look there and you can check off, and you may even decide, I'm looking today to see if the room is literacy environment that is rich for the students. Or
mm-hmm.
you may be coming in the room to see, is the teacher teaching to the objective. You may come in another time and just check for small group instruction. How is the rotations going in the room? Are students engaged? Because if you start to come in your classroom and you start to see things that are going well and students are engaged, the rotations are moving, the students know if a bell go off or alarm go off to move in a rotation style, or if the teacher's doing whole group, are students engaged? When you go in that room, are they engaged in reading? And if
Yes.
you start to look at key things and key instructional best practices, in which I will make available to you for free, it's a free resource, you will then be able to see if your teachers are teaching, if the students are engaged. Are students able, are they speaking vocabulary words they just learned? Are
Mm-hmm.
students writing about the reading? Are they having collaborative conversations with their classmates?
Mm-hmm.
If the teacher is checking for understanding, if the
Yes.
teacher just taught a lesson, can you as an administrator walk up to any of the students and say, hey, what did she just, how do you preview a text? What is it about that character? Do you have an effect or opinion about something? I mean, if you're in the room and the teacher just taught a lesson, which, by the way, teachers should never be up in front of their students no more than 20 minutes and 15 to 20 minutes. And depending on K through 2, it may be 10 to 15 minutes. Our students and even some adults, we just don't have the attention span that long to listen.
Right. Right.
So keep that in mind. Those are just some things. And I have an administrative checklist walkthrough for you that will help you know what to look through. And then you're checking data. You're checking the reports. You're checking the digital. If you have a curriculum
Mm-hmm.
with a digital piece, look at the digital assessments. You will not be surprised about your beginning of the year, your middle of the year, and your end of the year data if you are engaged walking your
Mm-hmm.
literacy blocks. And you may do third grade, you may do a building one day, and you just go in there with your checklist. And if you're not seeing things that's on that checklist, then you know that teacher needs a little bit more support.
And one of the things that you need to do as a principal, especially if you have data that's coming to you through digital reports, if you have a digital curriculum, is to make sure your teachers know how to use those reports and read those
Oh,
reports as well and make informed decisions based on those reports.
absolutely.
Because that's
Absolutely.
the worst thing, is to have that resource and not use it well or not use it at all.
And one of the suggestions I would have for administrators is that teachers they have grade level meetings all the time. And you may want to make one of the grade level meetings a data meeting. If you don't do it weekly, you can do it monthly. So you're
Yes.
always checking in and collaborating and looking at the data, because the plan that you have is a flexible plan. Just like the teachers who create groups could be flexible grouping, because we have some students that once they get going, that light bulb is on and they're working and they're
Mm-hmm.
growing. And then we have some
Yes.
students that takes a little bit more, need a little bit more time, or need a little bit more support, or need a little bit more small group direct instruction and more practice before mastering that skill.
Yes. This is great information. And I wish we had more time to dig in a little bit deeper, but we are unfortunately running out of time. So
Okay.
tell any of my listeners that are aspiring administrators or new administrators, give us one last piece of advice about literacy through the lens of the lead learner in the building.
I think it's important, administrators and aspiring administrators, that you have a literacy plan
Mm-hmm.
that is created by your literacy team, your curriculum team, and that you check in on your data, that you walk your classrooms with your checklist and provide immediate feedback. And when I say immediate feedback, can be a little sticky with one positive note and one little small note or wondering for a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we want to keep our teachers, and then look at Just like you come up with a literacy plan, come up with a professional development plan,
Yes.
which includes your teacher's feedback and input so that you're bringing professional development to the building that will benefit your staff.
Yes. We want to
Um,
make sure it's relevant and applicable.
Absolutely. And I think that just like we spend time prepping and supporting teachers, that we take time to celebrate our
Absolutely.
milestones, our celebrations, gains. We want to and bring in our community and our parents, and we have a celebration of all of the different students. Maybe went from one grade level, or went up a couple of notches, or he's mastered some skills. We want to
Mhm.
celebrate our students, and we want to celebrate our teachers
Yes, absolutely.
because
Absolutely. This is great
that's a
stuff.
great way to keep everyone motivated so that we can continue to work as a team. And I just want to let everyone know that it takes a team to help our village, in most people say a village, to work with our students and to close those literacy gaps.
Yes, absolutely. And I will have the link to the checklist that she referred to in the show notes.
Yes.
So tell us how, or tell my audience how they can connect with you. I'm already connected with you. So how can my audience connect with you?
I am the CEO and consultant, Global Literacy Consulting, and I am available for professional development to help you create your literacy plans, to do your walkthroughs, to support you in any area that I can. And you can find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Also, you can DM me, Dr. Sharon O'Neal on LinkedIn or Global Literacy. You can email me at global literacy consulting at gmail.com. I look forward to meeting, working, having conversations with you, and helping you create a plan to close the literacy gaps in your building. And best of all, supporting your teachers in an effort to just to serve our diverse population of students.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. And I will have all of those links in the show notes so you will not have any trouble connecting with Dr. Sharon. It has been an absolute pleasure connecting with you these last few weeks and getting to know you and now having you on the show. I cannot wait for some of the things that we have talked about that we are going to be
Yes.
doing in the future. So I'm
Yes.
excited about our future projects. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in today. And I will see you back here, same time, same place next week. Bye bye.